All right, so the third most common issue we see in our office from Orange Theory members is oftentimes related to coaches communicating to me that people are describing just kind of general elbow discomfort. And it's really, really common for people to develop a tendinitis in the area. We're not going to talk about that specifically because once you have that, honestly, self-treatment is only so helpful. That's something where it probably needs a evaluation, diagnosis, and some treatment in the office. But that generalized elbow discomfort that kind of starts, oftentimes you see that as you are increasing weight, or if you're a brand new member and you're starting to do weights and rowing for the first time. Typically what happens is our grip strength doesn't increase in proportion to the strength of all of our larger muscle groups up around the shoulder, the chest, and our arms. And so as you're getting stronger, you're starting to like yourself in the mirror a little bit more. You're at the studio thinking like, I'm gonna go a little bit heavier, a little bit heavier, a little bit heavier. And just because all of the larger muscle groups can handle it doesn't mean your grip strength is. And so when you are struggling with heavier weights than maybe you should have, or you're adding in extra rowing with it, the elbow starts to get pulling from all of the muscles here. And oftentimes you're starting to compensate through the shoulder. And so activation of your shoulder blade is often gone haywire. And so we're gonna go through a couple things you can self-treat to make sure that you are helping with the grip strength issue, but then also how to properly activate those shoulders, because shoulder pain, even though it's not in our three most common right now, I'll tell you, it's very common. And so we can kind of add that as a bonus of how to prevent that as well. So as far as mobility and tightness through the forearm, it's really, really easy to start self-treating that. Again, lacrosse ball is my favorite tool for this. You're just gonna roll through your forearm. This is extremely important. It is paramount that you do not roll where it may kind of hurt, and that's right on the bone here, or the bone on the inside here. Right here, you have a nerve exposed. It's your funny bone, which is just a nerve, and you do not want to roll back and forth on that unless you want to have some numb fingers. And this one, you've got bursa, and again, do not roll on bony prominences, but you can roll all through the forearm just like this. You're gonna place the ball on a table. This is great at home, like on a kitchen island is really the best place. And all you're gonna do is place the ball not on the bony part of your wrist, but just above, and you're gonna apply some pressure straight down, ball into the table, and you guessed it, nice and slow, rolling all the way up towards the elbow and back. And you can kind of change your angle that you're doing this, rolling kind of inside, center, finding where it feels the most tender. After you've done the backside, turn over, palm down, and you can do the same thing. You're gonna compress straight down and just roll through there. These usually don't hurt too bad. They usually feel pretty good, especially if you feel like you are overworking your forearm. The biggest issue with the grip strength isn't necessarily a mobility deficiency. This is just to kind of put out the fire of too much tightness through that area. You can work on doing, I know you guys do a lot with like suitcase and farmer type motions where you just hold weight to the side. Those movements are excellent in improving grip strength. Just tone down the weight a little bit where you feel like you can work really hard holding it, but you're not like killing yourself to hold the weight. And when we go through the shoulder activation, that will be really, really important for that motion. So I want to show you a really easy exercise you can do at home. Make sure you have a band. You're going to do this one standing. What you're going to do is basically stand on most of the time elbow is a tendinitis type issue. And the issue with those is they're really hard to get the inflammation to go down enough that you start feeling better. When something has inflammation and it needs strengthened, you go in there and just start doing any wrist type extension, you're just gonna piss off that exact problem. And so the tricky thing is, how do we strengthen something that often responds so negatively to strengthening? And it's with something called an eccentric motion. Instead of, you may think of it as you hold a dumbbell, a lot of times you do a curl like this. It would be as if you started here put the dumbbell in your hand and went straight down like that. You're strengthening by elongating. And so the way we do that for the forearm, stand on a band. You're going to stand up nice and straight. You're gonna kind of tuck your shoulder blades back. We're gonna go through that next. And you're gonna put that band in your fist like this. Really important, shoulder back and down. You wanna have your elbow tucked in like this. And all you're doing is taking the slack out. So if I'm here and I just go like this a bunch, you're gonna do that and it's gonna hurt right there. So you wanna take away the need for you to pull the band up by taking the slack out. And this exercise starts here with your wrist in extension, your fist up, and then you put all the tension in the band and slowly go down. So you're strengthening these forearm muscles, not by shortening, but you're doing it by taking the slack out, starting here, and you're strengthening by lengthening on the way down. You're gonna do 20, 30 reps of that, really, really slow, where you're just going down. If you have those really, really tiny, like 2-3 pound dumbbells, you could do it holding a dumbbell as well and doing the same thing, putting the weight in your hand and then strengthening by lengthening on the way down. That's gonna help strengthen some of those forearm muscles that need to help with grip strength. Another really simple thing is just like playing with putty throughout the day. A lot of us sit at a desk all day and all of that. If you're reading through emails and things like that, you could squeeze putty, things like that. Yes. All right, so now we're gonna bring Katie over and we're gonna work on how to properly activate your shoulders, especially important when you're using weights and on the rower. Critically important. So we're gonna go over here. We don't have a rower here in the office, but we are going to show you with a band rowing positions, commonly gone wrong and how to correct them. This applies to when you're on the weight floor too. This is about the rower and the weight floor. This is a really important posture you need to nail. So we're gonna pretend for a moment that Katie has no idea what she's doing, first timer over here, and I would tell her, go ahead and pull and row that band. A really common one I know coaches see and are scolding people about is, see how her shoulders kind of rolled forward. She's basically using these upper traps to do all the work. For those of you that don't know, but I know you've heard of the rotator cuff is essentially your shoulder blade. It's the muscles on the back of the shoulder blade for the most part. So when you are pulling, you should not be pulling with these bad boys. What should happen is your shoulder blade should be tucked back and down. And see how when she pulls this time, she doesn't roll forward? That's much better. So another common compensation we see is, I think Kay called it the overachiever of sorts. You're pulling a band or you're rowing and you're going up like this. Don't do that. There's all kinds of issues there. Unless you want to become best friends with me and get a whole lot of treatment or potentially surgery from a torn rotator cuff. Want to avoid that at all costs. So again, your elbows should be tucked nice and tight when you're rowing a band. And now we're gonna go through just the basic, whenever you're doing something on the weight floor or on the rower, how to properly activate those shoulder blades so you avoid the roll forward and you avoid using your upper traps. So what you wanna think about is your shoulder blades, when you activate them properly, they're sort of like that really good military posture. You wanna make sure you stand up nice and straight. It's almost like if somebody were to kind of pull your head up like this. You want to be nice and tall, first of all, and then you want to tuck your shoulder blades back and down. I like to tell people to tuck your shoulder blades in the back pocket. If you tuck your shoulder blades in the back pocket of your jeans, then you're going to be tucked back a little bit together and down. And if this is a problem for you, you might feel a stretch in this position, which is totally fine. When you pull, this is where you want to pull from. You want to pull from those shoulder blades. Almost every underlying elbow and shoulder condition can be tied back to an issue in your ability to activate this properly, not only under duration in kind of longer endurance type motions, whether it's on the rower or with weight, or as you increase weight and maybe you think you're doing an exercise properly, but you're rolling forward, or using your upper trap too much. So if you can't do that properly, then it's going to lead to potential shoulder and elbow issues. So one way you can work on this on your own is to stand up nice and straight, tie a band at home around a doorknob like this, and just do rows back and forth. Tuck your shoulder blades in the back pocket, slow and controlled. You can row backwards with your elbows bent. Another one I really, really like is keeping your elbows nice and straight and doing what's called a low row, where you pull the band and you keep everything nice and tight here, because you're really gonna feel that. When you go back, you can pause, 2 to 3 second hold, slow and controlled in the front. Notice when she comes back forward, where's her shoulder? It's not rolled forward. Her upper traps are nice and soft, and she is activating all of this stuff back here. This is gonna go a long way in helping you guys prevent all kinds of issues in the upper body, whether it's the elbow, the shoulder, and the neck as well. Many of you are kind of I carry my stress in the upper traps. This is a huge one. If you could take a band to work, or a lot of you work at home, stand up and do these throughout the day, and it's gonna really help take pressure off that kind of posture like this. So our most common injuries we went through today are all tied back to underlying motor pattern and strength issues. Those can all be self-assessed like we went through today, and you can start working on those on your own. If there's something where you've gone 2 weeks and things aren't correcting, that's a really good time to seek out treatment from a provider like our office that focuses on treating the soft tissue component to get your pain to go away, and then gives you exercises to strengthen what needs to be strengthened. I appreciate you guys. If you have any questions, please, please, please follow us at Integrative Soft Tissue on Instagram, and feel free to send me a direct message. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.